Omagyanatimanasya Chinanjala Shilaka Sakshramritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Sabastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskatyai Dasatarane. So good morning. Yesterday we started with the Kaliya pastime that we heard how Kaliya was poisoning the Yamuna river and caused so many problems for the animals, for the residents. And Krishna decided to do something about it, and from a kadamba tree he put his clothing nicely and dived into the water, causing a big tsunami. And then he started to sport in the water, making musical sounds in the water. But Kaliya did not appreciate the music, and he came out and he bit Krishna in the chest and then put him into his coils. And by that, the residents of Vrindavan became full of anxiety. So we were at text 16. All the residents of Vrindavan, they were running towards Yamuna, to jump into the Yamuna to try to save Krishna. And Balaram stopped them. And that's where we are now, text 16, 10, 16, 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Tam Stata Kataram Vikshya Bhagavan Madhavo Bala Pahasya Kinshino Vacha Prabhavaryo no Yasyasa. So, here the translation. The Supreme Lord Balaram, the master of all transcendental knowledge, smiled and said nothing when he saw the residents of Vrindavan in such distress, since he understood the extraordinary power of his younger brother. Purport. Shri Balaram is a plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, and is thus non-different from him. They are in fact the same absolute truth, manifest in separate forms. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Balaram was laughing because he thought, Krishna never cares to play with me in my form of Seshanag, and now he's playing with this ordinary mundane snake named Kaliya. The question may arise as to why Krishna and Balaram allowed their loving devotees to suffer such a great anguish during Krishna's temporary imprisonment within the coils of Kaliya. It must be remembered that because the inhabitants of Vrindavan were completely liberated souls, they did not experience material emotions. No material emotions. When they saw their beloved Krishna in apparent danger, their love for him intensified to the highest degree, and thus they merged completely into ecstasy out of love for him. The whole situation has to be seen from the spiritual point of view, or it will not be seen at all. So the emotions they go to are spiritual emotions of ecstasy. So there are many reasons why Balaram smiled. So this one reason is mentioned here in the purport. Krishna never cares to play with me in my former Seshanar, but now he's playing with this common mundane snake called Kaliya. So Srila Prabhupada warns here, the whole situation has to be seen from the spiritual point of view, or it will not be seen at all. Of course, this goes for all of Krishna's pastimes. The pastimes with the young gopis has to be seen from the spiritual view. It is not that they have the emotions that people have in this world, that they are not this kind of emotions. It is not this type emotions of lust. It's different. It's completely love. There's nothing selfish. They don't want to satisfy themselves. It is not that at all. So here we can see what the love of the Vrajavasis is. We are going to enter and experience this love, the Vrajavasis, if we deeply absorb in these verses. But Sanatana Goswami, as usual, gives another angle of view. Sanatana Goswami gives another reason why Balaram was laughing. He was laughing, it is said, for the sake of reducing their distress. But he's not saying anything. So this is for the purpose of consoling them. Because it is said in the Sanskrit, Prabhava Jna. So he knew the power of Krishna. He understood the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here is another reason why Balaram is smiling. Every time Krishna and Balaram, when they do something, then there are hundreds of reasons why they are doing it. And acharyas, they can catch these reasons. So another reason why he's laughing is to console everybody. Balaram is saying, don't worry, there is no problem here. But then Sanatana Goswami gives also another reason, and he's talking about the mood of Sukadeva Goswami. So Sukadeva Goswami is describing here Balaram smiling. And what is the mood of Sukadeva Goswami, who is speaking the Bhagavatam? So the mood is, by describing, is laughing and not saying anything. Sanatana Goswami says that Sukadeva Goswami is angry with Balaram. Interesting. Sukadeva Goswami is angry with Balaram. Why are you smiling and not saying anything? Look at the Vrajavasis. So this is another way Sanatana Goswami sees this verse. Sukadeva's loving anger at Balaram. So Jiva Goswami, he says, gives another reason. Why is he laughing? He says, in order to make them think, Balaram, Jiva Goswami says, he's not saying anything. In order to make them think, this Balaram knows the truth of his younger brother. He's very affectionate toward him. He's laughing, and there is no need to be anxiety. That's the same point what is in the purport, point of Jiva Goswami. Shiva Goswami says, it may be objected, if such is the case, why did he not completely instruct them about Krishna's power? So there is another reason why Balaram didn't tell them. It's not only to just not to disturb their bath, their ras, because Balaram was unable to act apart from the desire of Krishna. Krishna did not want him to tell. So he didn't tell. He's acting according to the desire of Krishna. So this Prabhavahya, that means that he could not act without Krishna's permission. Therefore, he couldn't tell them. Now, Jiva Goswami goes a little deeper and he says, is there Rasabas here? Balaram is smiling and here we have a catastrophe. How is that going together? Everyone is like dropping dead on the ground. They are falling unconscious. And Balaram is laughing. Is this Rasabas? No, Jiva says. Jiva Goswami says that because Balaram is fully aware of Krishna's power and opulences, and the people of Vraj are plunged in Karuna Ras, Shiv. Karuna Ras, out of compassion for Krishna. Karuna Ras. In this situation, grief is appropriate, but one can say that Balaram's Hasya Ras, the laughing, is not appropriate. If this rasa of Hasya or laughter is not appropriate, the Vrajavasis, you have Karuna Ras, and Balaram has Hasya Ras. Is this Rasa Bas, Hasya and Karuna? The truth is that Balaram, he manifests different natures according to the pastimes. And the cause of his laughing is Krishna's supreme power. People in Vraj are in a different mood. They want to protect Krishna, that's Karuna Ras. If they would have known the power, the secret of the power of Krishna, they would have smiled also. But they didn't know, and therefore they were all plunged into Karuna Ras. They were all in grief, lamentation, and fear. Text 17. Ten Vesamanadaityam Krishnam Suchitaya Padai Bhagavallakshane Jahmu Paddafya Yamuna Tatam. The residents hurried toward the banks of the Yamuna in search of their dearmost Krishna, following the path marked by his footprints, which bore the unique sign of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Following the path marked by his footprints. They could recognize his footprints, because there are different signs on his foot. They were unique. 18. Te tatra tatra rabya, te tatra tatra bya, yavana kushasani, tvajo papanani, padani vishpate, marhe kavam, anyapadantarantare, nirikshamana yajuranga satvara. The footprints of Lord Krishna, the master of the entire cowherd community, were marked with the lotus flower, barley corn, elephant goat, thunderbolt and flash. My dear King Pariksit, seeing his footprints on the path among the cow hoofprints, the residents of Vrindavan rushed along in great haste. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments as follows. Since Lord Krishna has passed along the path some time previously, why weren't his footprints, which were surrounded by those of cows, cowherd boys, and so on, smudged over and brushed away? Why hadn't his footprints been obliterated by those of the beasts and birds of Vrindavan forest? The answer is indicated by the word Vishpati, master of the cowherd community. Since Lord Krishna is actually the wealth of all living beings, all the inhabitants of the forest of Vraj would carefully preserve his footprints as great treasures, the very ornaments of the earth. There's no creature within Vrindavan would ever walk upon Lord Krishna's footprints. Text 19. Antarate bucharabo kaparitamarat Krishnam niriham upalabhya shala sayante Gopam samuda disanand paritapasumsa sankrandata paramakashmalama purachta. As they hurried along the path to the bank of the Yamuna river, they saw from a distance that Krishna was in the lake motionless within the coils of the black serpent. They further saw that the cowherd boys had fallen unconscious and that the animals were standing on all sides crying out for Krishna. Seeing all this, the residents of Vrindavan were overwhelmed with anguish and confusion. So first it was lamentation, fear, anxiety, and now we have anguish and confusion. These are all different emotions felt by the Vrajavasis. They felt it in the grief and their panic. So, the purport. In their grief and panic, the residents of Vrindavan tried to find out whether Kaliya had forcibly dragged young Krishna from the shore into the water, or whether Krishna had himself jumped from the shore and fallen into the clutches of the snake. They could not understand anything about the situation. And Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, being unconscious, were unable to tell them anything. The cows and calves were crying out for Krishna. And thus the whole situation was overwhelmed and created a state of shock and panic among the residents of Vrindavan. So from anguish, confusion, shock to panic, these are the emotions that the Vrajavasis are feeling. Text 20. Kopyo nurakta manaso bhagavatanante tatsharide smita viloka gira smarantya yastehina priyatame prisatuka tapta sunyam priya vyatiritam tatrishu trilokam. When young gopis, whose minds were constantly attached to Krishna, the unlimited Supreme Lord, saw that he was now within the grips of the serpent, they remembered his loving friendship, his smiling glances, and his talks with him. Burning with great sorrow, they saw the entire universe as void. So they thought, now we will never see him again. Now he's finished. Thus they thought that Krishna is going to die now. Lord Chaitanya prays, Yogaitam Nimeshena Shakshita Praviswayitam Sunyayitam Shatsavam Govinda Vyainame. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment just like 12 years of more. That Nimeshena. Tears are flowing from my eyes and like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling vacant in the world in your absence. So these are the feelings of the gopis. Krishna is right there, but they are feeling separation. This is an example of prema vaichita. Krishna is there. They are not separated. He's right in front of them, but they are feeling intense separation from Krishna. How is this? This is going on in Krishna's lila, because they are anticipating the separation from Krishna. He's going to die, and we won't be with him anymore. Srila Prabhupada said in a purport in Adi Lila, this is the aspiration of the devotee. While he chants the Hare Krishna mantra, his eyes filled with tears and his voice falters. So this auspicious signs when chanting the holy names of the Lord. So we can pray for that, to experience the good signs. In ecstasy, we should feel the entire world as vacant without the presence of Govinda. This is a sign of separation from Govinda. In material life, we are all separated from Govinda, attracted to material sense gratification. Therefore, when one comes to his senses on the spiritual platform, we become so eager to meet Govinda. Without Govinda, the entire world becomes a vacant place. Bhujan Prabhu gave an example of this eagerness to meet Govinda. He said, if you go to Jaipur, early in the morning, everyone goes to Mangal Arti, and you hear them running down the street, say, Govinda, Govinda. They are eager to see Govinda at Mangal Arti time. So Prabhupada gives this example also in Vrindavan. He gives this example in Vrindavan. While devotees go to the temple to see the deities. So even now we can have that experience. We can see the deity in the morning and we are separated during the day. If we are not a pujari, and then at night time again, we can go and see. When we are chanting the holy name, we can experience that separation from Krishna. But they are experience separation from Krishna while it's right in front of them. But how in front of them, of course, is God in the coils of Kaliya. Verse 21. 21, I mean. Ta Krishna mataram apatyamano pravishtam tulya vyata samanogriya cha shavantya tastavacha priyakata katayanta ashan Krishna nane pitadrisho vitaka pratika. Although the elder gopis were feeling just as much distress as she and were pouring forth a flood of sorrowful tears. They had to forcibly hold back Krishna's mother, whose consciousness was totally absorbed in her son, standing like corpses, with their eyes fixed upon his face. These gopis each took turns recounting the pastime of the darling of Vraj. So we have Mother Yasoda here, and all the other elderly gopis standing like corpses. And Mother Yasoda much more, as she cannot even speak. They are telling her the pastime, trying to console her. That so now we will go to text 22. That's the last verse for today, but we have a lot of comments after that. Verse 22. Krishna pananirvishato madadin vikshatam radam patyase datsa bhagavan Rama Krishna no bhavavit. Lord Balaram then saw that Nanda Maharaj and the other coward men who had dedicated their lives to Krishna were beginning to enter the serpent's lake. As a Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balaram fully knew Lord Krishna's actual power and therefore restrained them. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that Lord Balaram checked some of the coward men by speaking to them, others by physically holding them, and still others by casting upon his potent smiling glance. Distraught over the situation, they were prepared to give up their lives for Lord Krishna by entering the serpent's lake. So what were these words that Balaram was speaking? We will hear this from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He writes, Balaram physically held Nanda and others to keep them from jumping in the river, while saying, Gargacharya said, I mentioned that yesterday, Gargamuni. Gargacharya said that you will be saved from all obstacles by this sun. Keeping this in mind, don't you think Krishna will be released from this danger? Just be patient. If you all jump in the river and drown, who will maintain and raise Krishna when he comes back? Good point. Not only that, you will be neglecting Garga's order to take care of the boy as well. This was Balaram's reasoning. The word Bhagavan indicates that he was capable in that instance. So he's saying, Krishna will be all right. And you are going to die by going in this poisonous lake. And then, who is going to take care of Krishna? Who will take care of him when he comes out? So Balaram appeared. He appealed to their Vatsalya Bhav, So that was the only way to convince them. Krishna will come out and you will be dead. And who is going to take care of him? He will be all right. In Nectar of Devotion, it describes, one is forced to act in a way which is forbidden, or to refrain from acting in this way that is proper. He becomes regretful and thinks oneself dishonored. At that time, there is a sense of disappointment. In this kind of disappointment, one becomes full of anxiety, sheds tears and changes bodily color, feels humility and breathes heavily. So guess who is feeling that? Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So when Krishna appeared to have drowned himself in the poisonous water of the Yamuna, Nanda Maharaj addressed Yasoda. Interesting. He said, "My dear wife, Krishna has gone deep into the water, so there is no need to maintain our bodies, which are full of sinful activities. Let us also enter into the poisonous water of the Yamuna and compensate for the sinful activities of our lives." So this is an instance of severe shock in which the devotee becomes greatly disappointed. So these were some of the things were going on between Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. That we should all finish our life. Now Krishna is gone, so what's the use? But Balaram is saying, no. Krishna is going to come out, and you have to take care of him. That in the nectar of devotion, under the chapter dealing with madness, Mother Yasoda. When Krishna was chastising Kaliya in the poisonous water by the Yamuna, Mother Yasoda started to speak emotionally. "Oh, see how the earth appeared to be trembling. These appeared to be an earth, there appeared to be an earth tremor, and in the sky tears are flying here and there. My dear son has entered into the poisonous water of the Yamuna. What shall I do now?" So this is an instance of emotion resulting of a natural disturbance. So what else did Yasoda do? She went insane. Instead of searching for curative herbs, she began to speak to the trees as if they are snake charmers. With folded hands, she began to bow down to the trees and asking them, "What is the medicinal herb which can check Krishna's dying from this poisonous water?" This is an instance of insanity caused by some great danger. Yeah, we know snake charmers, they have a lot of power in India, actually. Yeah. So there is another example in Nectar of Devotion. Now when Balaram was in Dwarka, he was talking in his sleep. So Balaram talking in his sleep, and he said, "Oh Krishna, your childhood adventures are manifesting simply according to your own will. Therefore, please immediately dispose of the stubborn pride of this Kaliya serpent." By saying this, Lord Baladev, the bearer of the plough, returned to his deep sleep. This is an instance of sleepiness in ecstatic love. So once Balaram fell asleep during a meeting of the Yadus, and during his sleep he spoke these words, and all the Yadus were laughing for a long time. Now we will hear from Vihe-Bhaktivedanta. So before I've been reading also from Vihe-Bhaktivedanta, how Balaram was telling them, "Please, they are dying and I cannot save them. You must stop this right now." Balaram telling Krishna, this is what Balaram was telling Krishna. "They are dying and I cannot save them. You should stop this right now." Bhujam Prabhu quoted from Sanatana Goswami here. So when Krishna was embraced by Kaliya, he remained for 48 minutes, one muhurta. So that's in, because Vihe-Bhaktivedanta is written by Sanatana Goswami, that's again the the viewpoint of Sanatana Goswami, that Kaliya is embracing Krishna out of love, not out of anger. But when Krishna saw the residents of Vrindavan half dead, then he rose up. So Sanatana Goswami said, when you embrace someone out of love, you stay for some time and then let it go. Yeah, you stay for some time. So he was in the embrace of Kaliya, and now he was going to let it go. I'm continue to read from the Bprs. O merciful Lord Krishna, please give up this game before the devotees die. Otherwise, O Krishna, your friend, you are the friend of the cows. Your gentle heart will come to grief. So Krishna is the reservoir of all rasa, so he feels also karuna rasa. Although he enjoys pretending to be lifeless, his devotees are driven to desperation by it. So Krishna is pretending to be in Kaliya's coils and can help himself. But his devotees are going to die. If he does not stop this sport, he will be the last one to lament when the devotees have died. So Balaram is playing here on Krishna's emotions, because he knows Krishna cannot tolerate that his devotees suffer. The gopis, they cried, and they were lamenting in so many ways. Their limbs were in terrible pain, their hearts shattered by sorrow. That they fainted, they fainted when they went to the side of the Lord and they entered the lake. They went as if they went to Krishna, but the real purpose was to drown themselves. What is the use without Krishna? So how could these gopis, who were worshipped by the wisest scholars in the creation, be ignorant of the Supreme Lord's power? So that's the question posed by Sanatana Goswami. And then he gives the answer. The answer is that their minds were distracted by sorrow. It is unreasonable to think that the exalted gopis cannot suffer sorrow. In fact, they simply cannot bear to be apart from Krishna. Suddenly, the Lord stopped his self-invented sport and freed himself from the grip of Kaliya's coils. He climbed upon one of the serpent's thousands hoods and extended his lotus arms. So you will not hear that in the Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. This is Bhagavatam. So to save the gopis from despair, Lord Krishna extracted himself from the clutches of Kaliya's embrace before the girls could reach the water. He jumped upon one of Kaliya's head and spread his arms to lift the gopis to be with him, although the gopis were out of arm's reach. So that's, imagine, Krishna jumped off one of the hoods. There are 100 main hoods, but there are 1,000 hoods. And he expands himself like in the rasa dance, and he extends his arm to the shore and lift the gopis up to the hood of Kaliya. And like you have more than 100 dancing platforms, and then he starts to dance with the gopis, and it's going up and down. It's a dancing scene. a moving scene that because Krishna can do everything he likes, he's beyond the laws of nature. Taking hold of all his beloved gopis at once, Krishna briskly raised them unto the heads of the snake. So these gopis are lively, swaying back and forth, appeared like a rose, and on a dual platform, creating a most impressive sight. Here are hundreds of stages moving up and down. And now Krishna has his Rasa Lila on the heads of Kaliya, according to Bhagavatamrita. So the whole thing turns from suffering into a festival, at least for these gopis, not for Mother Yasoda and other residents. They don't see that. So Krishna artfully danced with the gopis on his most basic stage, accompanied by many celestial singers and musicians. So the demigods came with the band to get the music. And Lord Krishna, the source of all amusement, enjoyed his rasa dance pastimes. So we will hear about this, how the demigods will come with their instruments in the next verses. And Krishna is going to be dancing, and there will be demigods playing drums, venas, and all musical instruments. Some of the apsaras will try to dance like Krishna, but they cannot follow Krishna. So they just start dancing by themselves. So everyone, yeah. So Krishna, he beats on the head of Kaliya. There is a huge uproar from the demigods. But those on the shore, they cannot see what is happening. The residents of Vrindavan, they don't see that. And the cow's boy fainted, and the parents are too much shocked. They are too much shocked to see anything, what is going on. It is only the gopis and Krishna who are really enjoying. Nanda and others on the shore were brought back to consciousness by Balaram, seeing Krishna. They were delighted and surprised. So we can read, but maybe first we can go over a few main points we have gone through. So the residents of Vrindavan, they are in great distress when they saw Krishna bound in the boils of Kaliya. Practically their life breath has left their body. So we can read one verse more, 23. Itam svako kulamananyagatim niriksha shastri kumaramati dukkitam atmahetu achnaya mahtya padavim anuvahtamana stitva mohohtam udatista urangabandhat. The Lord remained for some time within the coils of the serpent, imitating the behavior of an ordinary mortal. But when he understood that the women, children, and other residents of his village were in acute distress because of their love for him, their only shelter and goal in life immediately rose up from the bonds of the Kali serpent. So, if we look at the Sanskrit, that Itam in this fashion, Svakulam, his own community of Gokul. So he was thinking of the residents of Vrindavan in different rasas, who are dealing with him in different rasas. The coward boys, the coward man, and those in parental love, Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda. They are Ananya Gatim, they have no other goal or shelter than Krishna. And he was Niriksha observing this. Ati Dukidam, I saw they were extremely distressed, and therefore Atma Hetu, Akhyaya, understanding that yes, and of course it is said here, imitating the behavior of ordinary mortal. Krishna is playing the role of a human being. But sometimes he shows his extraordinary power. But it's just Anuvartamana, imitating. Stitva, he remained for some time in the coils of Kaliya. We have heard Santan Goswami saying, yes, he was in the loving embrace of Kaliya. And then he freed himself. That Udatistat, he rose up and bond out from the bonds. How he does that, we will hear more details later of that. Sridhar Swami has a very short comment here. He says, seeing himself who was their only goal, and thus situated in the understanding that the residents of his own Gokul were distressed on his account, he rose up from the bonds of the snake. So seeing the bewilderment of all the residents of Gokul, for whom no other protector exists other than himself, Krishna stood up. Itam. Itam means that their sorrow, bewildering, and so on, failed to desist. This is comment of by Santan Goswami. They were extremely distressed. Ananya means unalloyed, no other, pure. So steel has usually some alloy, like nickel. This means there is a mixture of other metals within it. So the iron within may take different properties according to that mixture. But if there is unalloyed steel, then there is nothing mixed within it at all. An alloy is a mixture. Unalloyed means that there is nothing mixed within it. So the devotees in Vrindavan were unalloyed, Ananya. Nothing else than their devotion and shelter of Krishna existed. There is no alloy, there is no mixture of anything else, even not the tiniest substance of anything else. So they saw them as their Lord, and thus Krishna considered, I must immediately give them protection, that even if I have to perform an impossible feat. Thus, The Lord's natural ability to tolerate the distress of others is exhibited. More specifically, because of the distress of his intimate associates, and because even more specifically, it was on his own account he rose up with great haste. So, along with the woman and children separately indicated, the word here is shastri. Shastri. The married ladies and kumaram, the children, the young boys. By indicating these express a particular sorrow of Mother Yasoda and the young coward boys, the Lord's associate headed by Sudha. Seeing his own Gokul distressed in that way, in the above described fashion, and ready to go to their deaths, and seeing himself of the master of Gokul, for whom from besides themselves there exists no any Lord, no other Lord, the Lord of these gopis, who had no other shelter. They were extremely distressed, along with all the women and young boys, simply on his account. So they are Ananya. They had no other mixture within them than pure devotion. Sukadev Goswami indicate to Maharaj Pariksit that the gopis are exclusively devoted, just as you are. That's what he said to Maharaj Pariksit. You are also Ananya. You have no other mixture in you. This is an encouragement for Maharaj Pariksit. Their bhakta is Ananya, no other mixture within, and Krishna is therefore obligated to protect them, save their lives. Similarly, Maharaj Pariksit is called Ananya here. He's going to leave this world soon. Because of his pure devotion to Krishna, the Lord will also protect him. Therefore, a muhurta, a short time, he remained within the bonds of the snake body. So thus he suddenly stood up and freed himself. But the actual understanding is that one who meets another with special affection by embracing you, and so on. Such a person does not forcibly free himself, but rather he remains embracing for some time. And then he stands up. It implies the fashion of ordinary behavior. Remaining for a muhurta, he stood from the bondage of a serpent. The reason for his rising is given, since his own Gokul were in such a condition that they would not remain alive without his rising up again. Seeing that the Gokuls had no other lord and protector than himself, all of them, even women and children, he rose up. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes a muhurta as 48 minutes that Krishna remained stunned. But Sanatana Goswami, his analysis is quite interesting. Just as if you meet someone who embraces you with great affection, it's not polite the moment he embraces you to immediately pull you free. So similarly, when Kali embraced Krishna with the love that Sanatana Goswami described previously, Krishna remained in that embrace for 48 minutes. Otherwise, it would have been a show of impoliteness if he would immediately free himself from his loving embrace. But then, when it became so difficult for the residents of Vrindavan, for they knew no one else than Krishna, their Lord Krishna rose up. Srila Vishwanatha Bhakti Thakur comments, for a Muhurta 48 minutes he remained, he was stunned. Well, my dear Kalia, you have had a chance to exhibit all of your prowess. Now this coward boy is going to exhibit the prowess of his strength. Just see, just of speaking, he rose up from the bondage of the serpent. So, it is now 4 to 3. We will have a pause till 10 past 3. And then we will first hear from you what you remember, and then see what questions that come up. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, we will resume that. Please let me know what you remember, whatever you remember of the last two lessons. Something, also something that you found very striking, that or some particular observations you have, please share.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Balaram understood the purpose of Krishna being imprisoned by Kaliya, and then he smiled while Brajvasis were suffering with anxiety and being unconscious. But Balaram fully understood the reason of Krishna had the appliances, and Krishna is being Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes, Balaram understood the power of Krishna, but he did not say anything because we have different reasons. Huh? One reason is, yes, he did not want to disturb Krishna's pastimes and their rasa, their relationship. And also, he is a servant of Krishna, so he was waiting for Krishna's instruction. He does not act independently. Interesting. Yes, that is an interesting point. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, please. Pavitra.
Yes, Maharaj, I wanted to ask this question. It is said in text 18 that does no creature within Vrindavan would ever walk upon Lord Krishna's footprints.
Yes.
How was that possible? Because Krishna used to always play games with the kite boys. Krishna dance with the gopis. How will they avoid his footprints?
Well, it is said in the next verse that they could recognize them. Lotus flower, barleycorn, elephant goat, thunderbolt, and flag. That, they were always looking for these four footprints, and if they would see these footprints, then they would not walk on it. That, at least when they recognize them, because of the signs that, yes, if someone else has other insights in it, or other things you remember.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
Of all, Maharaj, thank you. First of all, I want to say a little of what Pavitra Prabhu have said. I remember one story of Jagannath Leela when I can try to use the picture of that story in respect of what Pavitra Prabhu have asked. When Jagannath was secretly worshipped, then at one point there was a devotee who was trying to find out the whereabouts of Jagannath. Somehow he got to know, and when he was to leave, to know the place where Jagannath was being hidden and worshipped, because when he got there, he was blindfolded. So when he was leaving back, he tried to put some sign in a different tree. And that sign enabled him to relocate that particular place where Dragana was hidden. So I see those signs. Something like that is what we are, directly saying. The Gopi was trying to look for the different signs. Definitely, they will know the different signs of Krishna because of the mark, the different mark that is engraved on it. So, Maharaj, that is one aspect of my thought of what Pravita Prabhu have asked. And I also like the principle that Balaram is teaching, that in every situation, a devotee might find his or herself. There should always be some smile. There is nothing we can do in some situation that is beyond our capacity. But if we smile, definitely there might be some way out.
That's interesting. That yes, of course. It is said here we are dealing with spiritual emotions. They are completely different than our emotions in this material world. That if we are suffering, it's usually not from separation of Krishna. It's suffering because of our attachments. And what do we do then? The scriptures say you accept it. It's your karma, you accept it. And then you have to forgive. That accept it and forgive. That and then the suffering will diminish. But you are seeing here from another point of view, which is interesting. Thank you. Any other observations of this pastime? Of things
Hare
you
Krishna
remember?
Maharaj.
Yes, Mother Kasturica.
In the text 20, how gopis are feeling the entire universe as void because they were constantly remembering their loving exchanges between the Lord and them. And it is an example of such a deep absorption. And I was thinking that, in the material world, there are mundane relationships and there is absorption. But it is so self-centered that, it is, how do you say, that it gives just the pain. And we never feel that the universe is a void. But here it is equally giving them the remembrance of their exchange and making them more absorbed in the Lord. So I see the contrast, and now I'm able to understand why listening to Lord's pastime will be acting on our, medicine for the repeated birth and death, because it is removing us from the illusion and putting us into the real reality. So that's just something I thought about. Thank you.
Yeah, but when I hear you speaking, where do we have this experience in our life of feeling that everything is void? I can definitely share with you when my Guru Maharaj disappeared, I had this feeling like the Vajravas is going into the water. What's the use of this life? That without this association. So I'd also that experience in some sense. That, but it is spiritual, but it's mixed because we are not, we are alloyed, not unalloyed. It's mixed with other things, and it's also very painful. But the other, another point that I can share with you is this deeper absorption of the Vajravasis. as long as we are not pure, it's difficult to get this deep absorption because so many material things come in our mind. But I had a nice experience that 2 weeks ago I underwent this surgery, and I went into the operation room. They put me on the operation table, and the anesthetist was looking at my papers, and I wrote on it, no, that I don't eat meat, fish, eggs, and so on. And she said to me, yes, oh, since when are you a vegetarian? I said, 30 years. I'm also a long-time vegetarian, she told me. And then we spoke about a few things, but then just before the narcose anesthetic treatment, I was absorbed in Radha and Krishna. I was deeply absorbed. I remember they put a mask on your nose, but I remained absorbed in Radha and Krishna. And I saw them in my meditation. It was very nice. And then I saw light in the room. And I was praying to Radha and Krishna, please help me in this difficult moment. I want to serve you. Please help that this surgery will be successful. But then I realized, I opened my eyes, and I realized that the surgery was over. But my consciousness has not been interrupted. I had no interruption of consciousness. It happened like in 1 second. It's very strange. And it was such a deep absorption. So if we are deeply absorbed in Krishna consciousness, the material side cannot harm us. That I felt so peaceful after that. So that is, yeah, the deep absorption. Not easy to attain this, but if we become purified and always take shelter in Krishna, then Krishna will help us. That's just a personal experience that I share on the basis of the nice points you were making. Any other points?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, in remembrance to just now what you said, it's like I recall from Canto 6 that once Urmila Mataji, she was giving the class and she told us that once she was undergoing a labor pain and she was meditating on Lord's belt. So she didn't even feel a slight pain during her delivery labor, this thing. So this was such an amazing experience to her, and it was amazing for us to hear also that usually it's very painful during that time, and she told she didn't feel any pain during this. So that was the thing I recalled when you said about your personal surgery, this thing was. And and in text 18 we saw this the Brajvasis, they do not walk on Krishna's lotus footprints. So this something came into my mind is like Krishna, he leaves the impressions on our heart and mind too. Sometimes we become proud of ourselves, and sometimes we may misbehave with some senior devotees or towards anyone. And Krishna, he teaches us a very merciful lesson. And sometimes we may keep those impressions in the mind, and sometimes we may forget and erase it. So I thought from today's class onwards, so whatever impressions Krishna, he mercifully tries to give to me. So I'll just note them in my diary so that I won't forget and I won't erase it. Just preserve it like the Brajavasis they did.
Oh yeah, that's good. That I remember we discussed that during the Bhaktivedanta course. You keep a diary, and every time you have extraordinary experience of you learn something special in Krishna consciousness, you write it down. Because the experience in this world is we are like in a boat going on waves up and down, and sometimes we are spiritually up, sometimes spiritually down. When you are spiritually down, then read these experiences again. Read it, and it will uplift you very quickly. And that's good practice, to write it down and then read it when you are in a moment that you don't have much inspiration. Good, thank you. Any
Hare
other?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Thank you for sharing your experience there in the operating room. It was very inspiring for us. I was thinking along the same lines of that point of how that sometimes as devotees, this material world is just so, so, myself personally, sometimes I just feel like I'm just absolutely not interested in anything here, like there's just nothing here for me. I'm just like, what am I doing here? And then, and also, by Krishna's arrangement, so many things have happened in the recent years of my life that really, like, everything that was dear to me was very much stripped away, So, yeah, but this, and I was seeing how the residents of Vrindavan are suffering so much because they feel like Krishna, the most dear person to them, is going to be lost. And the only thing that's keeping them alive is hearing Krishna's pastimes. And we saw that also when Krishna left Vrindavan, that the only thing that was keeping the gopis alive was hearing Krishna's pastimes. When Krishna disappeared from the rasa dance, then they were reciting Krishna's pastimes, like with intensity and with so much feeling. So yeah, I've been having this realization and also really feeling it, that through this class, Bhaktivedanta class, that these classes that we have every day are really sort of like giving me the will to live, in this material world, despite all the difficulties. That it's like, it's really the most valuable thing in a devotee's life, I feel like.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. But what I would say on this is from a personal perspective. This is personal. We go to a situation, Krishna gives us frustrations to give up our attachment to one side. At the other side, we get also spiritual inspiration. And these both things are there. But on the material platform, we go to a lot of frustrations. And because we are not yet pure, it's painful, and it causes blockages in our body and unnecessary stress and so on. So I've learned, this is just my own practice, I've learned that I have also to deal with that material part in a spiritual way. And all these frustrations and so on, the first thing is that I say to myself is, accept it. Because you deserve it, it's your karma. And the second thing I say, respect those who bring you the bad karma. Respect them. I respect them. and I accept. Okay, I accept dat Tinakam Pamsus Mikshama. We know the verse that we have learned. That and respect the others and forgive them. So accept, respect, and forgive them. But then you have to see what relationship you have with this person. And you must say it in your heart, if there is no direct relationship or deep relationship, I respect you, that and I deserve it, and I forgive. And you try again to feel the pain that you have felt, and then you have to say in yourself and to these persons in yourself, I respect you, I forgive me, but now this tension should leave my body. Let it go. Let it go. And there's a quote of Padma Purana, I don't know if I have it, that also speaks about that. Padma Purana. See if I can find it quickly here. Yeah. The yogi who is suffering from a disease should intensely concentrate his mind on the diseased place in his body, and then cover that portion of his body while chanting his sacred mantra. By use of his willpower and by the potency of the mantra, one should imagine the disease being driven upwards, as if purged from his body. Indeed, by this practice, one should burn to ashes all the impurities within one's body, which naturally accumulate due to the contact with this outside world. Anyway, that's a quote from Padma Purana. So, and that's something I learned. You have to learn to accept, forgive, and let it go. Let these tensions go out of your body. That is one side, and that will help you to be more peaceful and will help you in your bhajan. That the mind not diverted is from your so it's an inner attitude which is described in the Bhagavatam, which is described here in the Padma Purana. But for our inner health, this is important. Mother Prabhupada Priya, what do you think of what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. It's very practical. I never heard of that way of curing diseases, physical diseases, but it seems that you're talking more about the pain that we feel from emotional attachments.
Yeah, especially relationships. Yes, yes, that is. I've experienced. I have to deal with that in my life. I cannot neglect it because the subtle is very important. The gross disease comes from the subtle, and since I've been dealing with that, my sleep is better, my health is better, and yeah, we have to get these things out of our body. Of course, Krishna gives us these frustrations for our purification, and that is his mercy. But when it purifies you, you must help with the purification to get rid of this attachment. And keywords are accepting, respecting, that forgiving, and then let it go from your system. That you have forgiven them, you have respect them, and yes, give it back to them in that sense. Good. Well, Yes, Bhakti-Nivas, you want to say so? Please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have the experience that actually, see, I am working outside. I am having business and so many things.
Yeah.
But people want to change their situations, and the major portion of the life they just waste in trying to change the situations. If we just accept the situations as the desire of Krishna, and we focus on our Krishna consciousness and our services, then we can have the best use of the life. Otherwise, the whole thing will be just it will drain our energy in trying to change the situation. And Krishna consciousness could be nicely practiced in every situation. Every situation is the best platform to practice Krishna consciousness. This is one simple experience I have. So,
yeah, that's true. In 10 years ago, I counseled one devotee. He was from the Russian side, and he was going to Ireland. He was working there in a restaurant, the restaurant of devotees. And I was a bit like his mentor, but then he complained and he said, yeah, I'm working here 2 months and they agreed a salary and they don't pay me anything. So he worked there a 1 year very hard, and there was still many months salary not paid, and then he decided to leave. And he went to America. But I told him, be careful, you change your situation, but your karma may not change. So he came in America and he worked there in a restaurant of devotees. And 2 months later, he called me and said, they are not paying me. The same problem. So you can run away and run away, but it doesn't help. Better to accept your situation. We have now, I'm here in Brussels now,
yes,
and,
yes.
and I can't go anywhere. If I go to England, I cannot come back because I'm an English resident, and they charge a fine of £5,000 if you leave the country without a valid reason. They have a list of reasons, and I can't go to Germany either. It's going worse there. I'm just stuck here, but that's all right. We are doing the best activities now together is here in the Bhagavatam, so nothing to worry really. Good, thank you. Muralidhar Shyam Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it reflected me today morning when I was hearing Prabhupada lectures, and Prabhupada said that in a spiritual world there are no demon, and only a demon in the material world. So when this pastime going on, when discuss, especially this 10 canto, it remind me how Krishna's eager to make the devotee to intense to love him. So he going more turbulent than us to go to him. So from here, from we to eager to go, that Krishna ready to go suffering, ready to do anything for his devotees. So this is what I can say.
Yes, that is the points you are making. That can you repeat in essence again what you said?
I'm saying that Maharaj, in a spiritual world,
yeah,
there are no demon at all.
Yeah.
But when Krishna will perform his Leela in this material world, there are demons all this first time. So actually, Krishna body is soft like a sponge, but he ready to do anything for his devotee to get more intense love towards him.
Yeah.
So he's doing this for the soul to come back again.
That's interesting, and that we will discuss that later. that in Krishna's pastimes, his associates, you have different kinds. You have the Nitya Siddhis, eternal associates of the Lord. You have Sadhaka Siddhis that who are trained up. You don't have that in Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Nobody is trained up there. But here they are trained up. And therefore, these feelings of separation is part of the training. Sure. So we will hear that with the gopis. We will speak about the Munichari gopis, so many kinds of gopis that Nitya Siddhi gopis and yeah. But that's true. That for the Sadhaka Siddhis, it's a training ground. That to intensify their love. That of course for the Nitya Siddhis, that experience is also there. It may be different. That yeah. Thank you. That
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
yeah, I think Mother can I first hear from Mother Sitarani. She has her hand up for some time, if it's okay. Yes.
Hey, Maharaj, when you said about accepting, respect, and forgiveness. Now, sometimes you want to forgive, but you're not able to because that memory just stays. Now, how do we really practice forgiveness, which is heart deep?
Yeah, I would say there are. I would see that if it concerns family members, it's different. It's different because we have to maintain our relationship with them. That with others who hurt us, which we never see again, that's different. We can let it go. But when it concerns family members and this deep attachment, then I feel it's not only accepting, forgiving, respecting, but it must also go together with giving love to them, feeling that love streaming to them. And that will help to cure this. That this feeling of love, that trying to give them love. So that's mostly what cures us from the material world is this spiritual love. It has to be seen in relation to Krishna always. See them as Krishna's part and parcels, and try to give them your love. And that is important. Krishna consciousness means not only loving Krishna, also loving everyone else, or also those who have hurt us. But it's not easy. It needs a lot of practice, understanding, accepting. Yes, the fault lies in me. It's my karma, and they are only bringing it. Krishna orders them to bring it. So I should not be not feel grudge or towards them. Rather, I should give my love, and it's not easy. It takes a while and takes some practice. I know this. There's some of these things come lingering for many years. That yeah, that. But we see here what love this resonance of Vrindavan give to Krishna. What love they have. And they have this, and this love they have also for living entities. Krishna is in their heart. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I could share on that. Does that help, Mother Sitaram?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah. Please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
in text 22,
Yeah.
Balaram spoke to three categories of people. Some he spoke to them, some he had to use physical holding, and others by casting upon them his glances. So can you enumerate on the three classes of people he spoke to, he dealt with?
Yeah, we have heard the commentaries. He checked some of the cowards men by speaking, and our acharyas have commented. They have commented what he was speaking, what he was saying. They are saying it. They are mentioning it, but I think I have it here. Text 22. Yeah, that. So this from Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur says, Balaram physically held Nanda and others to keep them from jumping into the river, while saying, Gargacharya said that you will be saved from all obstacles by this sun. Skarga Muni predicted it. You must give your love to this sun and he will always protect you, he said. That, so that is, he's reminding them from it. When you drown yourself in the Yamuna and Krishna comes out, who will take care of him? So that's what he was saying. So that's the first part, by speaking. And then physically holding them. Yeah, I've no insight which of them he was physically holding. Could be Nanda Maharaj, I don't know. And others by casting upon them by his potent smiling glance. That's the potency of Krishna, of Balaram. Just by his will he could freeze them that they enter their heart, and that this is asintya, inconceivable. That's what I could say on these three ways.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. Mother Prabhupada, Priya, please.
Thank you. I have a question, if that's okay. I was thinking about this commentary that Sanatana Goswami gives, which is quite different from the version of the Bhagavatam. And I was wondering, what is the basis for that commentary, or the authority? Because the Bhagavatam is meant to be the ultimate evidence for the pastimes of the Lord. Is it something that was inspired from within, some, sort of spiritual insight that he had, or vision? Or is there some hint in the Bhagavatam somewhere that in these verses that indicates that happened? Or, where does that come from? And also, like, Sanatana Goswami is, we understand his spiritual position as he's, a Nitya Siddha and all that, but what would prevent somebody else who's not so qualified from giving a different interpretation? And then, how do we know what to accept, what to not accept?
Yeah.
Like that.
So the point here is that Sanatana Goswami, he sees the spiritual realm. He sees the Tattvadarshan. He sees what the lila, what's going on. I think both perspectives must be there. Krishna does different things with his pastimes. He's teaching us to give up cruelty and envy. And at the same time, he's teaching us that everyone who comes in contact with Krishna is purified at once. From the moment he touched he touched Krishna, he was purified. Purified means you feel love for Krishna. And that is what Sanatana Goswami is referring to. He felt his love for Krishna, that because he had touched Krishna. But still after the embrace, when he came out of the embrace, then he acted again according to the mode of ignorance. And Krishna will purify him further from this mode of ignorance. But interesting in all this pastime is also, the point that I make, when you may be a demon, but when you embrace Krishna and come in contact with him, then at that moment you feel spiritually enlightened. But it seemed to be covered again after that pastime. That's because these are two lines there. One line is Krishna will purify Kaliya completely, but he will have to bring him to the verge of death practically, dancing on his hoods constantly, get all the poison out. So that's it's teaching us. At the same time, having Krishna in his coils must have been a very ecstatic experience for Kaliya. But that's how these two things can go together. As Cynthia, I can't explain them. I have no idea. But they exist both at the same time, for sure. So sorry that I cannot answer your question, but
I was just thinking as you were answering that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
I was just thinking that Krishna does both things to devotees, like he stomps on our heads to force the poison out of us so we get the Kaliya experience. And then he also gives us these feelings of separation like the Brajavasis are experiencing.
Yeah, so, but this getting the poison out with his dancing, it's such a mercy. And the question will come up later, where did he get this mercy? And the mercy comes from his wives. He's saved by his wives, the Nagapatnis, who were devotees of Krishna and who preached to Kaliya for so many years, saying, give up your envy of Krishna and surrender. They preached so many years. And by their mercy, Krishna came to purify Kaliya. And at the end, he will become completely purified, we will see. And he will become a devotee. Because last time you mentioned Vikrasur, or Vitrasur, he was in the body of a demon, and he knew internally he was a devotee. But Jai and Vijay, who had 3 incarnations, they were also devotees, but internally they took on the mentality of a demon for the pastime. And we see that here also, Kaliya, he takes that on for the past. I mean, he's a creature in ignorance and he's envious by nature. It's just his nature. But still, Krishna will purify him here. He will not kill him like the other demons. That's their purification, but he will purify him and by the mercy of his the Narapadmas, he will become purified and remain alive, because he is becoming a devotee. And that's a beautiful part of the pastime, which we will hear during the next days. Good. Say
Maharaj,
yeah, a little moment. There are two who have raised their hands, Muralidhar Prabhu. Maybe you can also raise your hand, and I'm coming to you. That Tribhuvanath Prabhu, please.
Maharaj, thank you. I have once asked the same question to Jayadvaita Swami.
Yeah.
So he had said that this commentary, they are wonderful, they make the Leela so sweet. So he gave example of the House of Senate, that in the House of Senate, there is always some different commentary. See, those commentary, they have so much resolutions and records. So at different points of time, those records are brought to validate a particular evidence or something. So the basic thing he says that these commentary, they are very important. They make the lila sweet. This
Yeah, they do for sure. It enhances the sweetness of the lila. Thank you, Tribhuvanath Prabhu. Mashinya Prabhu, please.
Maharaj, for me, the challenge is to become non-envious, and I'm struggling. And each time I consciously become aware and take this challenge, and then I see suddenly I fail, and then again I take this challenge, and this is going on to give up envy in different forms. So this is really a big challenge.
Yeah.
How to become non-envious.
It is because it's very subtle. And I've the same experience. Still, material desires come in my mind, and my intelligence may make plans to execute it, but I never do it. And finally, I come always to the conclusion: forget it. I don't want it. It's all temporary. It's all nonsense. That's a Krishna somewhere or other protects me, but it's not cheap to become pure. If we are really entering anartha nivritti, it's really Krishna's mercy, and we will see that he will get Kaliya through anartha nivritti in a very special way. Thank you for sharing that. Mother Kasturica, please.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is, how do we develop absorption practically? Because I lack. That's one question. And second, when you said we have to accept, respect, forgive, and let go, it's a lot to do on it's a very high spiritual platform. This is something I cannot apply. So I don't know how can I do it? If you can give some practical advice on both of it.
Yeah, but because of absorption in Krishna consciousness, it's a gradual experience that sometimes when you become purified, sometimes you think of Krishna, sometimes you don't think of Krishna. Yeah, because of our impurities, the mind brings up always so many issues but Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, practice, and detachment. Detachment comes by hearing, especially by hearing the Bhagavatam. That hearing regularly creates this detachment. And practice, yes, try to practice. It starts with nice chanting, that when you chant japa, let your mobile phone alone and try to go deep. Feel Krishna in your japa. That try to put love in your japa. No, not trying to control your mind with all means. Trying to control your mind, that's like I'm the controller, but if you put affection and love in your chanting, then the control will become easy. That's the first thing about what you said about is accepting and letting go things and forgiving. Yes, it requires an endeavor. It doesn't also happen very easily, but if you have that meditation on this accepting and this forgiving regularly, that will gradually help. That it are the principles of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. But you have to regularly practice it. And finally you will come to the point to let it go. That it's not easy because we are mostly emotionally very entangled with these things. But through the spiritual knowledge and the spiritual power, we will in due course of time see things more clearly and be able to do that. But it starts with one thing. One thing I can say is you must want it. You must want it to happen. And that desire is very important. If you don't want it, then it will be very difficult. But if you really want to forgive them and get out of it, yeah, there are a few points I could make. I think our time is up now, and we will continue tomorrow with the pastime. Thank you for all these interesting discussions. Look forward to hear more about Kaliya and Krishna tomorrow. Thank you. Jai Prabhupada.
Bhagavad Goswami
Jai.
Maharaj ki.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Bol.